So, thank you once again for joining us. This is our final day of a week-long webinar series of small business assistance. My name is Kyle Cram, and I'm the City of Seguin's Main Street and CVB Director. And we are co-hosting this event with our partners at the Seguin Economic Development Corporation. We are here to assist you with any small business needs. So if you have any questions or need access to resources, please reach out to us at any time and we'll do what we can to help. Our webinar series would not be possible without the support of our sponsors, and they include GBC and Anders Pierce Realty. We are recording today's webinar, so that will be shared with you after the webinar. Throughout the day or throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please type the questions into the chat box or the Q&A, and we will be answering those questions at the end of the webinar. Finally, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, and that's Kyle Cofer with the Retail Coach. Kyle is a graduate of the University of Mississippi, and he joined the Retail Coach 1 year ago upon graduation. He was literally raised in the family business, having various internship responsibilities at the Retail Coach through the years. Most recently, Kyle was able to build upon his real estate experience through an internship with the Henry S. Miller Company in Dallas, Texas. Kyle will be supporting project directors with daily responsibility, data collection, and client communication. And we will turn it over to Kyle.
Well, Kyle, thank you for the introduction there. Can y'all hear me okay before I get started? Just kind of want to give y'all a little bit of background on the Retail Coach. We are, long story short, a retail consulting firm that partners with communities, EDCs, to ultimately help recruit retailers and restaurants, as well as provide our experience to existing businesses as well. I've been doing this for a little over 18 years, worked in over 450 client communities in 32 states. So, you know, we've kind of seen it all. And for the agenda today, I kind of want to start off by talking about trends impacting downtown and local retail, which will kind of lead us into downtown Seguin specifically, and then some really cool information that I think that that y'all like to see on COVID-19 and kind of the impact that it has had specifically for downtown. And then to wrap it up, I'm going to talk about some successful business strategies as well as experiential retail specifically. So kind of to start this thing off is, you know, it's no secret that the past 30 years or so have been pretty difficult for America's downtown, whether that's in Texas or Mississippi, where I'm from. It's kind of been consistent all over the country. You know, during that time, traditional economic development has been more focused on your interstate properties as well as big box retail, and honestly, people have somewhat forgot about downtowns. We've kind of seen a switch of that here in the past few years, where, you know, people are starting to put more of a focus back in downtowns, which is evident with kind of what's been going on in Seguin and you know, the great level of downtown draw that you have there. So kind of like I said, retail is undergoing many changes, and disruptive technologies is one of the leaders there. And, you know, everybody always hears the term, you know, retail apocalypse. Amazon is coming in and really taking over. And yes, I will admit to some extent that is true. And, you know, I'm guilty of hopping on the computer and adding the cart and having something at my door the next day. You know, it's easy, but you know, Amazon is not taking over like some might say. And one thing that's kind of leading the change as it tends to retail is social media. These platforms, everybody has a phone that's just about connected to them at all times, and platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you see online brands advertising on these platforms at all times, and making it available to where you can purchase something on these apps very, very, very easily. I grew up in the time when Blockbuster was kind of king on Friday nights. My mom would take my best friend and I to Blockbuster, and we would get 2 or 3 movies for the weekend, and maybe some candy and be set. But as technology has kind of advanced over the years, as Blockbuster is one of the unfortunate brands that just kind of hasn't lasted. Netflix and the online streaming platforms have kind of come in and really taken them out, which is unfortunate. And everything's kind of moving towards that online platform there. A few brands that kind of show that, ones that have shut down, some that are kind of shrinking to a smaller format is Toys R Us closed stores. Sears is been announcing for years that stores are closing. Lowe's and Home Depot, kind of the home improvement concepts, they're not really expanding as much as they were. They're kind of shrinking their format, trying to figure out what's going to work for them moving forward in the new kind of online age and those type things. And then Subway, for a while there, Subway was opening, seemed like a store on every corner, and for the past year or so, they've been closing what they consider their underperforming stores. And then kind of all the doom and gloom, but brick and mortar retail isn't dying. In 2018, there's a stat that came out that 80% of retail sales still happen in brick and mortar stores. So everything you hear about retail apocalypse, brick and mortar locations are dying, online sales are king, isn't always quite the truth. Can't always believe everything you see. So, one thing that we see that gives us a little more faith in brick and mortar is Amazon is opening what they call their Amazon Go stores, their Amazon bookstores, to where kind of the online king, you might say, is getting into brick and mortar. That's something that's comforting for us. And I actually saw an article 2 or 3 days ago where it says that Amazon is planning on opening up another round of stores. Didn't mention exactly how many it was, but said that they would be opening up more stores in the next year or so. A few other brands that are opening up stores. So I kind of highlighted it earlier with social media kind of being the king these days. Is if you're on Facebook, chances are you've seen advertisements for Warby Parker, Allbirds shoes, Casper mattresses. Those were brands that kind of started online. That's kind of how they made their name known. And this is a stat that came out from JLL was, these brands here expect to open 850 plus new locations in the next 5 years. Crazy to think that, but they think that there is a need based off of people still liking to go in stores and feel the tangible object and being able to make a purchase in store. And kind of to talk a little bit about millennials is, millennials are the kind of the generation that's out there pushing and spending money. And, I looked this up earlier is millennials are actually categorized as 22 years old through 38 years old. So it's not, what you pictured millennials 5 or 10 years ago as young kids, still living with their parents. And millennials now are purchasing homes, starting families. And I'll tell you that we're seeing a younger demographic on the reports that we've run in Seguin, which for retailers, restaurants, that should be a positive theme that you're seeing there, because like I said, millennials are the ones that are going out, they're spending their money. The stat here is, by the end of 2020, it's projected that their purchasing power for millennials nationwide is going to be about $1.4 trillion, which is pretty crazy to think of how high of a number that is. And then kind of to talk about a few trends that we see from millennials as well as under other generations as well is, if people are given the opportunity to shop online versus in a store, people would still rather purchase that item in a store. They like to go in and have the experience, like I said earlier, try on the dress, really be able to see the quality of the product that they are buying. Authenticity, local sourcing, and shopping experience are important, but 80% is still influenced by price. So if you're a local business owner in Seguin and your store is stocked with outdoor goods such as Patagonia, North Face, and those type things, you need to be paying attention to what Patagonia and North Face are registering their prices online, as well as Amazon as well, because you need to be competitive. The prices need to be competitive, which is shown here as 80% of purchases are still influenced by price. And then interact with digital channels, social media, mobile, email, etc., over traditional ones. Like I said earlier, everything is kind of moving towards the digital age if it's not already here, and especially for that we've seen with small businesses traditionally is sometimes they're kind of slow for change, especially with COVID-19 and everything that's going on now, that we think it's going to be even more important moving forward than it's ever been before, to be able to showcase your store and the brands you carry. Offer a website where consumers can see what's in your store and they can purchase it and do a store pickup or even come in and shop. So local retailers must carry goods and services that consumers want to buy. My boss always tells the story that he gave a similar presentation a year back, and a lady that was there, she said, well, will you please come check out my store after this? And he agreed. And it was a community with lower incomes, but she had a very nice store. And she said, well, I'm having trouble. Nobody is buying the type products that I had. And he walked in, the first thing he saw was an $80 candle. And he said, well, you've kind of got to think about the price points that you're touching here. And he said, why do you have these type things in your store? And she said, well, that's because this is what I like. So if you're a business owner, you've got to know what your consumer wants, whether that's millennials or other generations. You got to know what are they buying, and those are the type things we need to stock in our store. And then loyalty rewards cards. 77% of people like to participate in these programs, and it doesn't have to be crazy. You can see it at coffee shops where you can get a punch card, and after 5 coffees, your 6th one's free. Or it can be a social media post where you share an Instagram photo and tag 3 friends, and ultimately the business will pick an owner or a winner for a free t-shirt or a free pair of shorts. So, there's no perfect science to this, and it can be manipulated into multiple different ways. And then kind of third, kind of talking, people want to locate in communities that have everything, especially a vibrant downtown, which is evident in Seguin. We kind of consider downtowns as the third location outside of home and work, where there's stores that everyone can enjoy. So kids, parents, grandparents, places for grandparents to sit down and get a drink, places for kids to get ice cream. That's kind of what we see people are looking for in communities these days. And then kind of to shift specifically into downtown Seguin. A big part of what we do is data driven. It's 2020 and national retailers and restaurants, everything that they like to see on a community is based on data. They kind of have their check marks of what they like to see. A community must check off, 8 of 10 boxes for them to consider locating in a specific community. And one way that we've kind of twisted this is ultimately to help local businesses as well is know who their consumer is. So in this case, what I did is I ran a cell phone study. It's a mobile analysis that lets us track how far consumers are traveling to shop in one specific area. And how this works, it's all opt-in data, but chances are one of your apps, your location services are turned on, whether that's Google Maps, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Maps. If you use your phone while you're in a specific area, we're able to track how far you're coming to that specific area based on your home location. And it's kind of scary to think, but we're not selling this data or anything like that. What you'll see, it's just kind of packaged to help, national retailers as well as local retailers know, okay, this is really who my consumer is. So for this case, we included the downtown area in a polygon. So everything that you're going to see is specifically based on downtown Seguin. So kind of to start off, so we looked at roughly February 1 to February 1 of 19 to 2020. I did these dates because I kind of wanted to cut out the coronavirus pandemic, because that would somewhat skew the numbers, but wanted to let you know kind of what this looks like on a year basis without the coronavirus. So so on that 12-month period, we have an estimate of 147.2 thousand customers making 667.4 thousand visits. So that's kind of crazy to think that we can do this. And like I said, it's not a perfect science. It's not going to track every single person, but in 2020, this is the most accurate data that is out there. So if you look here at visit trends, there's a jump to around 30,000 around, between November 25th and December 9th. I'm sure that was some form of Christmas parade downtown or something like that. So, this is accurate data, especially this visit trends kind of lets us know that. And then the heat map. So basically what this does is the darker red is really the higher concentration of consumers that are shopping in downtown. So, obviously around downtown in Seguin and into San Antonio, you're gonna kind of see the highest population there that's shopping, which is shown in the darker red, but you're still pulling some consumers from Dallas to Houston. And like I said, this is showing one visit over that 12-month time. And as I move forward, you can see kind of how that changes when we look at 2 visits. It's a much more condensed area, a much more local and regional area that you're pulling from. But, kind of crazy to think that this type data is out there. And like I said, if you're an existing business owner, you typically know who your consumer is, where they're coming from, but this kind of gives you a peace of mind in mapping out exactly who this consumer is based on this heat map. and just kind of take it a step further is favorite places. So that consumer that's shopping in downtown Seguin, they're also shopping at H-E-B, Central Park, Walmart Supercenter, Plaza Del Rey Shopping Center, and Tanger Outlets. So, it almost lets us track, where else are they going? Who are your competitors? They're shopping at H-E-B, and if they can't get something at H-E-B, then they're going to Walmart Supercenter. So kind of some crazy data to think about there. And then this next graph down here is kind of what I call the spider map. So picture downtown Seguin being basically the blue dot there in the middle, and lets us know prior and post. So basically 51.9% of the consumers are coming from their home location to downtown, and then 49.1 are going home after. And this is a stagnant map here, and you'll notice that these don't add up to be 100%. So there's much more listed, but for this I kind of just wanted to include include the top 5. So like I said, some pretty cool information there to build on. And then path to purchase. What roadways are consumers traveling the most to get to downtown Seguin? Which this is pretty obvious that everybody would know these type roadways leading into historical downtown. And then hourly visits. So what times during the day are the hottest points? So obviously at 12 o'clock noon is a hot spot. And then one thing that's kind of unique to me is there's not really much of a drop off. It's pretty consistent to 6 p.m. I assume that jump from 4 to 6 is a few restaurants, because traditionally I know that downtown businesses kind of close up shop around 5, but like I said, compared to other downtowns, this is fairly consistent there on the hourly visits. And then daily visits. Thursday, Friday, Saturday are typically the highest days for downtowns. And then Sunday, like I said, I assume that the majority of businesses are closed on Sunday, which we typically see. Then length of stay. So for the downtown area, the average length of stay is 103 minutes. So for us, that proves to us that people are coming, they're going to eat, they're parking their car. They may be going to get some ice cream after. They may stop in a few stores and burn some time and try on some clothes. So people just aren't coming to one specific location. They're coming, they're shopping, they're parking their car. And I will say, you may think that seems like a long time. And one question we get a lot is well, does this take into consideration people who may live downtown, people who may work downtown, and yes, that does. So the algorithm we use takes into consideration that mobile device that is there just about all the time and throws out those outliers. So this is a number that we're very confident in. And then kind of some information on COVID-19. So really, when this thing hit around March, what we wanted to do is kind of figure out a way how we could package what we do, our partnerships with cities and EDCs, and this cell phone analysis and its usage, and help maybe put together what we consider our impact analysis. And ultimately, this is kind of what we came up with specifically for downtown that I wanted to share with you. So basically, what this does is it's separating these numbers into biweekly periods. So the average number of visits to downtown over a year span was right at 11,681. So basically this shows is the percent change from the weekly average. So from July 29th to July 5th, unfortunately, downtown traffic was down 43%. And I'll tell you, you're not alone in this. We've run these on tons of downtowns, and we've seen plenty that are currently down around 60 or 80%. So 43% may seem horrible, but compared to others that we're seeing, that is not as bad as it seems. And then this kind of shows that in more of a line graph to, you can see kind of where you were when things were at its worst around March into April, and how much you've come up. Things are kind of just start to dip a little bit more as, people, some might consider this second wave coming through, but things are better than they were at their worst. And then kind of percent change from 2019 to 2020 based on the month. And I'll tell you, for July, you can kind of throw that out because we were only able to pull the data until July 5th. So that's not really the most accurate there, since we don't have a full month's range. But you can see that in June you were only down 29% compared to 39% the month before. So things are getting better there. And this is kind of just reiterating the slide before in a separate bar graph format. And then kind of the same thing again there, just kind of wanted to include that. And like I said, this is some information that that if you want from us, just reach out to me after, and I'll be sure to make this available. And then kind of our third thing on the agenda is successful business practices and kind of experiential retail. So kind of talking a little bit more about millennials is, what's the best way to market? I hit on online social media, and this is kind of a few more facts is, only 13% of millennials don't use a digital wallet options. And options to offer include Apple Pay, Google Wallet, and PayPal. 59% research a product or retailer after seeing a social media ad. So if there's a new store opening in downtown, and you may place an ad on Instagram or Facebook for the surrounding area, it may catch somebody's attention, and 59% are going to put in a search and see what's going on with that business. And if that's the case, then you can see the importance to have an online presence, to have a presence on a website, Facebook, Instagram, and those type things. And then 54% of millennials use their mobile device to research products and services. The cell phone's on you all the time. It's the easiest thing to use. And kind of wrap up this slide is businesses must place an emphasis on social media marketing strategies and mobile-friendly payment options. Doing so means they can target more customers offline and online. The traditional marketing of radio still works, but things have kind of progressed, and there's other options out there as well. And this is kind of it's an older stat, but that hasn't been updated, but still kind of cool to see is it's how many times have you used the internet to find a local business in the last year? 41% of consumers look for a local business at least once a week. So that's a kind of crazy high number to think. 97% of consumers use the internet to find a local business. and 76% of consumers who search on their smartphone for something nearby visit a business within a day. So with my job, I'm traveling a lot. So if I'm traveling, I want to look online. I want to see what a community has to offer more on the local side than on the national side. I want to know what type of local restaurants there are. So I'm going to take a look at Yelp and those type things, which is where you see more accurate reviews and those type things on restaurants and such. And this kind of talks about online reviews, which I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself there, but 93% of consumers read local reviews. 35% always read the reviews when seeking out a business near them. And 68% of U.S. consumers said that positive reviews made them more likely to use a business. And lastly, 85% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. And I can say that single-handedly I'm listed in all these percentages because I'm always looking at reviews before I buy something. If that's online, if I purchase online, and then also as well if I'm going to look at something online and then purchase if in a store if I can. Visibility, a little bit more about Instagram and social media. If you have a website, I hit on this earlier with coronavirus. It's going to be more important now to be visible, have your website, have all the goods that are posted or in your store posted on your website, to where if things ultimately have to shut down again, if people are more comfortable shopping online, is make that available for them, which is ultimately going to do nothing but help your store. And then with review sites, ask for reviews. There's plenty of places where you can order a Yelp sticker and put it on your door that people will see when they walk in or they walk out, that says, how was your experience? Please leave us a review. That's going to do nothing but ultimately expand your following, and have good reviews there. And then social media, generate buzz with content and have something worth posting about. And then kind of lastly is experiential retail. Kyle kind of hit on this in his introduction, but I'm from Mississippi, went to school there, and I'm from a small town called Tupelo. And Tupelo is a town about 35 to 40,000 now, but really does a great job with its local businesses. And one of those is Strange Brew. As you can see that top right picture, it's an old convenience store that was kind of the corner on Main that just sat vacant forever. And a local guy in the community bought it up and has done a tremendous job with it. And they sell coffee, but they do much more than that. They have comedy shows that happen at night. You can see that picture there. And they're very involved in the community, with high school sports, those type things. They give away gift cards to top performers on the football team that weekend that's voted to by the coach. So they're very involved. It's not just a coffee shop. Like I said, they have a comedy show, and then some nights they actually do a thing where they play Disney movies for kids. So it's kind of moving on from just your traditional coffee shop and making things much more of an experience. So kind of a few stats here, and one that's in red is approximately 70% of retail business is transacted between the hours of 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. So we kind of like to say if you're open from 8 to 5, if you're a small business owner, you're open from 8 to 5, you kind of got to think, or are you catering to the employed or the unemployed? Because typically your consumer is going to be employed and they're traditionally working from 8 to 5. So that's something that you might need to think about. And if you're downtown, it's not going to work if one business opens 45 minutes later, an hour later than usual. It's going to take kind of a handful to kind of get together and do that. You've got to kind of do some self-reflecting and think, are you operating this as a business or a hobby? Are you in it because you enjoy it? Are you in it to make money, or even a combination of both? And retailers must work with, not against each other, especially in downtown. Y'all are kind of a bound group down there, and must kind of operate together that way. And then a few more experiential retailers. This is a store called Core Cycle and Outdoor. It's also in Tupelo, Mississippi, and it's kind of an outdoor men's and women's clothing store. But they've got a section upstairs where they sell boating equipment. So inner tubes, wakeboards, wake surf, skis, and those type things. They've kind of figured out that that's a niche market that isn't covered. In North Mississippi where it's located, and they don't have any competitors whatsoever. So they pretty much own that market for just about the whole state there. They also have running, cycle, and camping gear, as well as a rock climbing wall. So you can come in and you can, buy some Patagonia North Face gear. You can hop on the rock climbing wall and kind of do it all there. They also have a few Pac-Man machines in there for kids and those type things. So it's really a cool store that you can kind of come in and, it's not you're just going to come in and buy something and leave. You might sit down. And the owner is very visible in town, has a great social media following, and really just does a great job of interacting with his consumers, kind of on a personal level almost. And one more is Reed's. So Core is kind of a spinoff from Reed's family. Reed's has been in the community for over 109 years now. They have a little more upscale clothing than Core does. They also have a boutique gift store, a boutique bookstore, as well as a third-party barbershop, and a second location in the mall. So you can come in and you can grab a book. You can go over to the men's or women's section and you can grab some, upscale clothing merchandise. And then third, you can go get your haircut. It's kind of all in one, which is kind of cool to see. Is this store started doing this 109 years ago, and we kind of like to consider them, one of the first experiential retailers that kind of came on the radar that really we noticed. And we'd been shopping there for years before experiential retail term kind of came to fruition. So, it's kind of cool to see that. And then one thing, you need to realize is when a consumer comes in your store, the goal should be to sell them something. And that's the key of carrying a wide variety of goods. Is, when they come in, make sure they walk out with something, whether it's a keychain, a wallet, a haircut, a book, or even a piece of clothing. So that's something to keep in mind when somebody stops by. Make sure you sell them something. And then find creative ways to leverage your product line. So this is a store called Farmhouse. They're kind of a children's store, but they also hold painting classes for kids and parents as well. They have children's parties in the back. framing classes, and they have multiple retail categories. So that, they're not just carrying children's things; they're carrying furniture, home decor, toys, and clothing. So kind of goes back to what I finished with on their last slide is, if somebody comes in your store, sell them something. Make sure they walk out with something. And kind of a few takeaways is more than 85% of retail sales are in store. So the retail apocalypse is not all true. Brick and mortar stores are not going anywhere. Unique local experience, independents have an advantage. Locals like to support the stores that they kind of have a connection to. And we see that all over the country, and it's no different in Seguin. People would rather shop in store in downtown Seguin, all over Seguin, than buy something online. And be findable and available. Have your store hours posted, and if your store hours are posted from 8 to 5, don't leave it at 4 o'clock and have a note on the door with nobody there that says, sorry, we had to close shop earlier. That's not consistent, and kind of goes back to, are you operating your business on a as a business or a hobby? Then online presence. Have a website, Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, and TripAdvisor account. Ask for reviews. Major influence is a major influence on decision, and interact with customers. And kind of on the experience retail side, to wrap this thing up with takeaways, is offer something different, something a little bit outside the box. Take some time, think, and it will pay off. People will kind of realize what's going on, and they'll really take advantage of it. And that kind of wraps up. That kind of wraps up my presentation. Let me get out. Kyle, do you want to read off some of these questions we might have?
Sorry. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in to the question box or the chat box, and we'll get them answered. Right now, I think you answered the questions that came in. I think you answered them in your presentation already. So, let's see. So, I know you kind of talked about how downtown Seguin compared to other downtowns, and so we haven't seen quite the drop in percentage number of visitors coming to downtown, but overall, how do we do you kind of know how we compare number wise? I know we were kind of average around 11,000. Kind of what's kind of a common number you see for cities about our size of visitors coming to downtown?
Yeah, so in anywhere between 8 and 11,000. I would be very, very happy with that number of roughly 11.6 thousand on weekly visits. That is a ton of visits coming down compared to a number of communities we see all over the country. So I was honestly kind of shocked by how high that number was, to be honest.
Okay. And then I guess, like I saw in the cell phone data, there was one little pocket on the north side of Austin where we had some red. So would you have any recommendations for businesses or the Downtown Business Alliance of how to target that area, since they're already apparently coming to Seguin?
Yeah, so typically what we see with small pockets like that is traditionally that's somebody coming for maybe an event downtown. For specific weekends. What we could do is we could take a deeper dive into that, and we can kind of discuss this later, but kind of looking what that downtown heat map looks like for a specific weekend. Like I said earlier, if there may be a downtown parade for Christmas and those type things, to be able to see what that heat map looks like for that for that specific weekend versus the whole calendar year, and kind of gives you an idea of who you can market to for those specific weekends and vice versa.
Sounds good. So it seems we don't have any additional questions at this time. Give it just another minute if you have any.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out, if anybody has any questions, let me put my contact information back up here. You know, feel free to reach out, give me a call, shoot me an email, and you know, we can talk about some things and maybe how this data can help you know, your business specifically. And I kind of just skimmed the surface with some of the data we have. If I would have included everything, it would have taken hours to go through. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Well, I guess that will do it for the day. Thank you very much, Kyle, for your time and expertise. I know I learned a lot, and we were actually, I think we had planned to have you kind of do this presentation for us at one of our downtown business meetings, but that ended up getting canceled because of COVID. So we appreciate that you were able to make it happen virtually. So
Yeah, I agree. Thank you all again for having me.
thank you. And well, like I said, we have been recording this webinar, and so we will share it, the link or the video of the recording with all of you, and we hope you'll be able to watch it again and get the information you need back from it. Well, thank you all very much for joining us for the webinar. I know several of y'all have been on all 5 of them, and so we appreciate you participating and joining us on all of them. And we hope to be able to do this this webinar or some type of small business resource fair in 2021. And we're hoping to have it back in person. If not, we will continue them to be virtual. Thank you all for attending these, and we will talk to y'all soon. Thank y'all.